welcome back to part two. Part two of today, because we've already done a podcast this morning, and part two with Mr. Steve Greenblatt, so we can actually talk about what we had planned on talking about last week today, which is business fails. We've all had them. We've learned from them for the most part, and we are here to talk with David and Steve about those. So welcome back.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for coming back. So who wants to go first?
Business fails?
Business fails. Mistakes we've made. We've all been in, well, we've all actually, worked for different companies of different sizes. But I think what I was thinking is more of the startup kind of business fail. Whatever we want to talk about. Whoever wants to jump in first.
Why don't you start, David?
You start. Everyone being shy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you had mentioned one earlier, and
I have a good one. When I started, and actually this might be a particularly good one because so many people are having to start businesses remotely, and that's what caused this. That's what caused me to make this mistake. I had always worked in offices, and when I started in Let's Do Video, it was a remote team, and I missed that feeling of being in an office and seeing everyone's butts in the chairs and knowing that they're working. And especially, it was my first time being the boss. And I felt like I needed to know that I had a team. And I didn't want my team to feel like, I have a contracting thing for this guy, David. I do some website stuff for him. I wanted them to feel like they were part of building Let's Do Video. We're a real team, even though we're remote. So I had a daily status meeting. And it was, it was so bad. And it was bad in every way you think it would be. We would sit there for an hour every day, wasting time talking about work instead of working, and starting to annoy each other and stuff. And then we tried to fix it, and it just wasn't fixable. We studied techniques of business productivity. We studied Agile Scrum. We tried to apply and modify Agile Scrum to our daily meetings. So it would be a 5-minute meeting where I would bring up my Trello board, or Trello's our sticky note board we say we're working on. And I'd say, in the next 24 hours, I'm going to work on this and this, and I'm going to give you my status. And Anna would say, we have this bug on the website. I'm going to see if I can fix it, and I'll give you my status. And then the next day, we'd go up and look at our sticky note board, and it'd be great. It would take 5 minutes, and we would be done with it, and we'd see each other, and we'd check in with each other, and we'd feel like, my team would feel like the boss knows that I'm working, and I would be like, my team knows that I care. And it just became this hour-long meeting every day of me and one particular person on the team that I was engaged in working with, talking about the stuff we're working with, and everyone else being like, can I go? And being like, oh, yeah, you can go. And everyone I'm like, I remember being in meetings and looking at other people, and we had this look on our face like we all hated the boss. And I'm seeing that on my team's faces, and I'm the boss. I'm like, oh my God, everyone hates me. And at that point, it's like, not to be like ridiculous, but would I rather the business make more money or have everyone hate me? I know the right answer is make more money, but it's just not my answer. I can't deal with it. And it was really bad. And we went to less frequent meetings. So that was my big fail, the daily status meeting, whether you need it or not.
I did the same exact thing when I started NSCA, because the team down in Iowa wasn't remote, and so Mike Abernathy and I were both remote, and I did it because I was like, I need to see people, and I was like, I think this would be a great idea. Just have like a 10-minute coffee break in the morning meeting, shoot the shit, say hi, whatever, and then it just turned into everybody listing out what they were doing for the day. I was like, this is so, no.
Yeah, we don't need every detail.
How about you, Steve?
That's what it turned into.
I actually was going to talk a little bit about remote teams too, because I figured that it was pretty pertinent. And honestly, the first time we tried it, and I think we talked about this last time about pivoting and being able to thrive during this time and the pandemic and so forth. And we just didn't have the right people and the right systems and the right structure in place to be remote. So, and the first go at it, we were remote just meant, okay, people aren't going to come to the office. But I believe we used to do a daily huddle for about 10 minutes every morning, which I think was important. But what was happening, I think, after that is that everybody was going off doing their own thing and there was no accountability. So I'll kind of balance what you guys were talking about. While I don't believe you want to do death by meetings, you certainly want to be able to make people feel like like there's still structure and that you still are working like a team, and that you have you still have ground rules and you still have structure of knowing that you have to check in with people. And I think that one of the fails that we had, because we pretty much turned over the majority of our team because of it, is that we weren't getting the productivity. People weren't really fitting in well. And honestly, we didn't hire
Interesting.
the right people for being able to work remotely. And now that's actually something that we put into our hiring strategy, making sure that the people that we hire can work remotely. But that was a huge fail. I mean, we lost people for and it was within a year, people came and left. Several people came and left.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. You don't really think about that. Like, so, I mean, you hear about it, like some people thrive thrive remotely, thrive in the office, but then when you have to actually do it, you're forced to do it, that there's people that literally just can't do it.
That's correct. Yeah, and it was, and I will take responsibility for that too, in that I probably didn't set them up to succeed, and I made a lot of assumptions. I assumed that they were going to be responsible and they were going to reach out when they needed something to do, and that they were going to let us know what was going on, rather than being proactively checking in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think along the same lines that so I believe that transparency is a good thing, and we try to really communicate and let our team know where we're at, good and bad. And we really got burned at one point when we were having some challenges, being honest. And I think that's a very fine line to walk, because continue to be honest, but you really have to know that the people that you're working with and those on your team are going to also appreciate that and not take advantage of it or not use it against you.
Yeah, it really feels like it. It's funny what our industry is all about. It really comes down to people and communications, and a lot of these mistakes that we're talking about, and a million more that are running in the back of my mind. I can give the specific story. I sent this email, and this person took it this way, but not all, a lot of my mistakes are about people and communications, and some of it is over
Mm-hmm.
communicating, having that meeting every day and the over your shoulder thing, whether it's the boss being over your shoulder or the employee, boss, I'm doing this, boss, I'm doing this, boss, I'm doing this. People need independence or not enough communication. And the scariest thing when I was an employee, was sitting at my desk and not being sure what I was supposed to be doing, and worry that the boss is going to walk in and say, "What are you working on? If you're doing nothing, why am I paying you?" It's and I want to feel like I'm needed, and I want to feel like I'm important, not important, but I'm I want to feel like I know what I'm doing. So the communication in that direction, of course, communication in the other direction. We don't want to feel like, I've had times when I'm a team leader and I had a person who's not communicating. It's like, is this person actually doing the work, or is this, and just doesn't like to communicate, or is this person ripping me off and not doing the work? So communication and people is really seems like the overarching thing.
It's so important. And like, one of the big things, so going out on my own as a contractor, it's like, it's so different because I'm used to working with one team, right? Like, or multiple teams, but one company, and so now I work with, I don't know, right now, probably like 10 different companies. And, I'm really hard on myself. And I know I am, and I'm working on it, but it's like, I have all these people who are probably like, she's sitting around doing nothing. It's like, well, no, I'm actually doing stuff. It might not be for you, or it might be for you. And, when this first started, which also happened to be, like right when the pandemic hit, it was like half of it was, fear of, my gosh, I'm so lucky that I've worked, and kind of working too much, and I wasn't really keeping track of my hours, um, and I was just trying to do as much as I could for everyone because I was so thankful to have work to
Hmm.
begin with, right? So, um, as I I started keeping track of my hours a little bit and then a little bit more, and now I'm pretty diligent about it. Um, but I realized that I was working like 80 hours a week, like 7 days a week. And I'm like, what am I doing? I have no life. And I was going kind of a little bit crazy. But then it's like, okay, but if I keep track of my hours and show people exactly what I'm doing, then I don't have to feel bad. And they have complete transparency, and I share it with them, so it's like they have complete transparency into what I'm doing. So they understand that, you know, X takes an hour or this takes, 15 minutes or whatever
Communication.
that may be. But yeah, it's communication. And it's like, it's, it saved me from probably like some sort of mental breakdown or something. It's like,
It's
it-
funny. It feels like, and I think what I'm hearing from you is what I feel is when I was an employee, I wanted the boss to like me a lot. I wanted the boss to really like me. When
oh, I
I'm
definitely have that problem.
when I'm a client, when I'm a whatever, let's do video, independent contractor business working for a client, I want the client to love me. It is not an it's a different thing. I wanted my boss when I worked at the company to like me. Anyone who comes to LDV, I don't want them to say, "Yeah, we hired LDV and they did a great job and it was great." I want to say, "Oh my God, Dave is my favorite person in the world." It's just a different level, and I wind up what you just described. I think of it as the plate spinner phenomenon. Back in the old days, or you were a person probably, there was something called circuses, and there were guys who were called plate spinners. They had a pole and they put a plate on it, and if you spin the plate, it balances on the pole. The plate, like a dinner plate, balances on the pole, and if you stop spinning it, it falls off. So you spin this one, then he takes another pole and puts his plate and starts spinning that one. Then he takes another pole and he winds up with 10 of them, and he keeps having to go back to each one because if he stops spinning any of them, it falls and breaks. And when you're what you are and what I am, what we are, a business with clients, each client is one of those plates, and we're afraid that the client is going to call up, like you just said, and say, "What the heck? I haven't, you sent me that press release a week and a half ago, and I haven't heard from you since then. What are you working on? What am I paying you for?" And you can be like, but the clients, they actually do understand. We don't know that, and we're afraid of that, but they do understand. But you setting your limits is something you have to learn. Otherwise, you have, oh, business. We should have had a buzzer. A business fail. Beep beep beep. Or a business fail episode.
So there's also a difference too, if you think about it, between a business mistake that actually costs you real money and that costs you, I guess, intangible money or opportunity. And that's another thing to look at as well. Something that we did many years ago was try to come up with a product where we were trying to produce graphics that were going to be used for interface design. Now, what I learned now, which I should have told myself many years ago, was that you really have to understand what a client wants to buy, not just a good idea that you have. And we spent a lot of time and a lot of effort putting this together, and then realized that it didn't really hit the mark for what the market wanted and what they were ready to buy. So it's just something else to think about when it comes to business mistakes, is
right.
some of
R&D.
them cost you real money.
That brings up a question, and a question I have for both of you. I don't know if this is a business mistake or not, and it's something that's happened over and over with Let's Do Video. Is I've tried something, that didn't pan out. We wanted to do a forums at some point. What do we had a name for? Or the LDV Lounge. If Anna's watching, she's going to be like, "Oh my God, is he going to go through the list of things?" We have a list of things that we put time into. We spent a few weeks building these forums. They're still there somewhere. We have it all set up. If you try to type nasty stuff, it censors you. It's safe. It's protected. It has the categories. We never went live with it. And there's a LDV music. There's a list of LDV things that we built and we never did because, one reason or another, we had other priorities, da da da. It just wasn't the right thing at the time. And part of me thinks, you know what? Every one of those was a learning experience, and we learned from it. Some of them actually partially went live, and we made a friend out of it or a contact out of it. Some of them were complete fails and never happened. But I think the bigger mistake would have been not doing those things, even though they all cost me money and cost me time. And thoughts?
So you could look at that as more of an investment, right? So you put in the time and the effort, and you did get something out of it. You just may not have made it, and you probably saved yourself from losing potentially more. So one good thing about making mistakes in business is that as long as you take something away from it and you don't repeat the mistakes, you could look at it as something that you've gained.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and ROI isn't always measurable the way you think it might be. Like there was one thing we did on the website. A bunch of fellow bloggers, AV bloggers, we formed this something we called it the Masters of Communication. And the idea is we'd all put up a blog once a week, and we'd all share it with each other on LinkedIn, and it would be great. And it would make us all huge and da da da. If it worked, it didn't blow up or anything. There were whatever 8 people in the group. Uh, 4 or 5 of us sort of did it regularly, 2 or 3 didn't, and then a few more petered out, and then it was just 1 or 2 of us really doing it, and it eventually fizzled out. And the time I spent building the page for it and setting it up, and a person on my team was like, "You are not going to ever get ROI out of this. It's not going to happen. You're wasting time. We have other things to do. Don't be doing this." And when it fizzled out and died, that person was like, "See, I was right." But I don't agree. I think I wrote some blogs I wouldn't have written otherwise. I read some blogs I wouldn't have written some otherwise. There's some people maybe following me on LinkedIn that might not have been otherwise. The other 8 people that were in on this, they now think of me as someone that was on their team for something. And if I ever have to work with them again, it might be there might be a stronger contact than they would have been otherwise. Uh, I don't know what I'm getting at here, but I guess oh yeah, I guess the fact is that ROI is hard to measure on a strict spreadsheet ROI basis. Huge loss, but on a soft ROI basis, I think it was a huge win. Sorry, a very large win.
Just try and be an optimist when it comes to mistakes.
Yeah.
As long as you look at it as part of an education, and you, as you said, what you may have done is made an investment, so that now you didn't get the payoff now, but you might be getting the payoff later on, because either another idea comes of it, or you're able to repurpose something you did, or you learned something that you could use later on. I think there's a lot of value in that. Another way that I look at business mistakes is I encourage my team to take chances, and it's okay if what they did is not good, or isn't correct, or isn't the way I would do it, or frankly, if it didn't go well, as long as we learned from it. And I don't believe that anybody can do something that's going to be so significant that it's going to have a lasting impact. The mistakes are correctable.
And that, I'm glad you said that. That really keys me into something that is an actual mistake, which is not being accepting of mistakes. Because I worked with a boss who was just, oh man, he was a nightmare. It was a nightmare because anything that wasn't exactly what we thought was going to happen, he would literally flip out to the point that everyone working around him was on pins and needles all the time. Like,
Oof.
oh no, the 3 o'clock meeting, the client called and they want to switch it to 3:30, and we're not sure if he's going to be okay with that. You tell him. No, you tell him. I'm not telling him. I'll send him an email. No, you send him an email. I mean, and it was the little, and sometimes bad things happen. We told the client we'd have this by the deadline, and the software's not working, and they're going to have to tell them they're not going to get it. Hey, that's life. But even then, don't be, unpleasant about it. But it was the littlest things. It was, you hear him mumbling to himself at his desk, and he'd be going, reviewing this person's writing again. Great. Is this 11 font? 11 font. How many times have we been over this? It's supposed to be 12 font, and it's this person. David, how many times I'm reviewing whose document again? They sent it to me in 11 font. You believe this? What do you have to deal with? And it's like, yes, this is horrible for you. I'm like, you can't work in that environment. Mistakes are, and I mean, I'm
I don't,
making
I don't think I've ever worked with anybody like that. Thank God.
that was
I
that
don't
was
think
an
I
extreme
wouldn't have
example.
lasted very long. That's for sure.
Oh, that was an extreme example, but y- I've had people who aren't so extreme, and I think that even with bigger mistakes, obviously it's not just, hey, we're all hippies and someone could just totally mess up. Oh, you blew $1 million deal. That's cool, bro. We're all friends here. I mean, obviously there's got to be limits, but mistakes are part of it. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I think I just feel like I look back to, some of the companies that I worked for, and I feel bad making mistakes that the company had to pay for, right?
Mm,
And some big, fails that I've, really championed at different organizations. It's just I feel bad, but I'm like, oh, I hope that the good ones I championed helped at least make up
balance it
for
out.
those. like, but yeah, I mean, you learn from it, and I think back to, when I first started in my career in marketing, and there wasn't even really Google, so it's like, and I had worked for a company, and I was the only marketing person and didn't have a boss, so it's like I didn't have anybody to ask, well, how do you do this? Where, so like I just think back to that. I'm like, wow, I don't know how I survived there as long as I did, just trying to figure out everything on my own. And, but I learned a lot, and I took a lot of that knowledge and what worked and didn't work and brought it to the next job, and the same thing at the next job and job role, you bring it to the next one. And, that's what I think about, all these they talk about, like older folks getting close to retirement, like not having trouble finding jobs, right? Because they have too
Mm.
much experience. And I'm like, yeah, but they have experience. like they've been through the ringer, I would imagine, in several ways of, well, I've been through that. I learned, not to do that, or I learned to do this, or,
They
so
made a lot of
it's,
mistakes. It's a good thing.
yeah, right.
So I was thinking, I think
Things
what
that
I'm sorry,
um,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I bet you that you guys can relate to this, is that one of the things I think that's an asset for us in the roles that we have and the way our companies serve other companies is that we learn the mistakes that clients are making and help other clients to avoid those mistakes.
Yes, that as well.
Yeah, seeing that a lot of that producing live events this year, we're all figuring out how to do it. We're doing it for the first time, and people are saying, "I want to do it this way," and those of us who are producing it are trying to make it all work, and we're saying, I just did an event last month, and the client tried that, and it didn't work, and it's definitely yeah, learning as you go. So I was thinking, people always like cringy stuff. So for me, the cringiest business mistake that I make is when I'm writing someone an email and I'm editing it and it's not even complete sentences because I just cut and pasted something. And there's something in Gmail that is close to Control V, which is my paste, that sends the email. So,
Oh, that's the
and then
worst.
it makes my stomach hurt. And then I have to send an email saying, "Hi, I just sent you an email. I was still editing it. What I meant to say was," but you have to send it really fast, but you want to get it to right, and so you're panicking, and it's like, and you almost want to call the person, but I don't, calling on the phone. Who does that? Oh, that's so cringy for me. Can you think of any good cringy ones like that? I put you both on the
Hmm.
spot, huh?
I guess autocorrect along the same lines is can
Yes,
bite you as well.
yes,
You
that's a
definitely
good
have
Yes.
one.
to proofread.
Oh, there's been some bad ones. Um, Another one. This didn't happen to me, but I was in a Zoom and someone tried to send me a private message.
Oh,
Yeah,
it went to everyone.
and I went to
Oh,
everyone.
that's like my biggest nightmare.
Yeah, we were working for someone else, and that person didn't have their act together. So my colleague typed to me, "Wow, this is a stuff show," but she didn't say stuff.
Oh, geez.
And the cause of the stuff
Ugh,
show was
it
our
just
boss.
that
I thought
just makes me so uncomfortable.
it makes
I
my
just like feel physically ill thinking about that.
makes your stomach hurt. So that's why I don't take I don't. Whenever I'm typing anything, I act as if the person I'm talking about is reading it. Always, always try to be nice.
Smart.
So I could throw one out there that's, I would say it's embarrassing more than cringeworthy, but I do recall going to a job site and needing to do programming. And one of the things that you need to do programming is a computer. And when I opened my trunk, I realized that my computer was still in my kitchen.
I've done that.
And that was a almost 2-hour drive.
Oh,
And luckily I had a cool client that I was working with and we made the best of it. But he said, "You're lucky that you were working with me."
Wow.
yeah,
So
stuff
he
like
wasn't
that is
thrilled.
just like, oh.
Yeah, but being prepared.
I know,
There you
but
have it.
sometimes it just is like, sometimes,
Stuff
I
happens.
mean, yeah, stuff happens.
And
gotta
I
roll
think
with
the
it.
key there is to own it. As long as you're able to say, okay, it's my bad, and I apologize, and I'll make it up to you, and it won't happen again unless of a very rare circumstance. But as long as you own your actions, I think that
Yeah.
most people are understanding, because if they're not, it kind of goes back to what David said. You can't work with people that are unaccepting of mistakes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that a great example. I did we produced a live event a few weeks ago, and we had a pre-edit. They wanted to pre-record the videos of their speakers. So and they got them all at the last minute, and we did all the editing. So they sent us like 40, files with Dropbox and this and that, and it was all when they recorded them. They told all the speakers, "Hey, if you mess up, just say, 'Oh, I want to do that over again, 3, 2, 1,' and keep going." And then they would mark it in a thing, but they didn't mark them all. So I thought I caught them all. I thought I tried so hard, but we had to work fast. And out of the 40, and out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 3, 2, 1s, we missed one.
Ooh.
And when that session went live, I was watching that session, and I'm watching this, and it's going really great. And I see the speaker say, "Oh, that slide, I didn't do that right. Hold on, I'm going to go back. 3, 2, 1," and I go, "Oh." It felt like someone punched me in the gut. It was the worst feeling. And
That's like,
afterwards, when we met with the client, I didn't say everything I just said to you about I had to do 40, and I went through I said that was a mistake. It was supposed to get caught, and it didn't get caught, and I'm mortified. And I really tried to have 100%. I didn't match 100%. Anything I can do in post editing to fix it, anything I can do. And they were cool because I didn't BS them. I didn't, not my fault, not my fault. Didn't give them attitude. I owned it. And you know what? At the end of the event, they weren't talking about that at all. It never came up again.
do you remember? Sorry, that made me think of this. Do you remember when we were doing the thing for Excellence Marketing, the live stream event,
Yes.
the SM58 day thing?
Yes.
And
I
the
think I know
one,
what you're talking about.
it was like our live, it was like my first live stream. And I was all nervous too, because the owner of the company was like watching, and we did like a test, and I screwed up on something, and I just literally, like, the F word came out of my mouth. And I was like, and my client, my boss basically is like, "Kelly, don't say that." And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm mortified." It was just like, I don't think anybody was there. So I think it was okay, but it was like, that is the worst possible thing I could have said.
It was so bad.
It was so
It was
bad.
okay because it wasn't during the live event. We were doing a test beforehand, so the only person that was there was your boss.
Yeah, but it was
But-
like, I bet he had a heart attack.
It was
I bet
hilarious.
he literally, like, almost had a heart attack, and just like was so nervous for the event, because I was hosting it with another guy, and it was just like,
You were just being
so-
yourself. That was so natural because you were mute. What happened was you were muted, and you were talking for like
oh yeah,
like-
that's what it
like 10
was.
seconds. And I was producing, and I was supposed to be quiet. I should have earlier said, "Hey, you're muted," or the other person that was with you should have said, "Hey, you're muted." But he waited like 30 seconds, and then he says, "Hey, Kelly, you're muted." And at that point, you had been for 30 seconds going. So
Yeah,
of
and then-
course, when you hit unmute, the first thing you said was, "F word."
It was like, I started sweating immediately, and like my face turns red. You know what I mean? And I'm just, yeah. So I'm glad it didn't happen in the
But
real
you know
event.
what?
But
You
yeah, that
covered
was
it
a
great.
fail.
It was a perfect recovery because what I would have done was I would have panicked and I would have said, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I'm so sorry. What do I do? And what you said, okay, so today we're here to talk about, and you just went right into it. You went right into it. It was amazing. I'm like, oh, that's what you got to do.
I'm glad that wasn't in.
And that
And
goes
if
with
you
everything we've been
Right.
saying. You just got to go with it.
these days too, I think there's the tolerance for that is a lot higher, because if you look at all the live broadcasts that are happening and everybody's doing stuff on Zoom, none of them go off perfectly.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. I think there's definitely elbow room for mistakes, and thank goodness, because I don't know, it's too hard to be perfect.
Yeah, we do meetings with people that have like the face in the camera looking up the nose. Hey, we have some people in the chat. Anyone in chat have some business fails? I'm trying to watch the chat. Keep this interactive.
I think it like humanizes us too, you know? It's like, yeah, when you see the news anchors and the meteorologists at home and like a cat walks by or their kids are running around or, you know, whatever is happening, like it's like, okay, I don't have to be super buttoned up and on edge all the time.
Yeah, they could be real people. Right? The kitties
I
agree.
like it. They're cool.
I wish we had some breaking news. I really want to use our but I don't have any news. Breaking news. Kelly thinks that it's good to have kittens walk into your meetings if you're a news anchor.
I like cats and dogs.
So I'm trying to think of more cringy things. For me, yeah, the sending the email that I didn't mean to send yet. That's the one that it's not the worst thing in the world, but oof, that one gets me.
I don't know. I don't have anything else off the top of my head. How about you, Steve?
I'm thinking that nothing that is notable enough.
All right. Well, we'll just have to make more mistakes, I guess.
Oh, I'm ready for it.
There's still time left in the day.
Right.
Yeah. It won't take long for the next one. All right, so we ready for our final thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah, you good to go?
Did you
Yeah.
find Pink Floyd yet?
Oh, I tweeted it at you. You didn't see that?
I know, but for right now, so it comes on like with the.
Oh, I have some. Let me see. Some like epic music. Da. That's good, right? In from space, Mount Kelly, the
Perfect.
wisdom, the mountain of wisdom.
All right. So today, let's see. Did you know that Tic Tacs, you know, the little mint thingies that come in the little containers, that Tic Tacs are little balls of 100% sugar. They're
just
100% sugar, just sugar.
Okay.
However, they can say that there's zero sugar. They all say that there's zero sugar if you look at the boxes, because the FDA said that if anything has under a gram of sugar, it can be considered sugar-free.
And what, they weigh just under a gram?
And they weigh just under a gram.
That's too perfect.
So a Tic Tac can claim that it's 0% sugar. However, it's 100% sugar based
I
on
love it.
the guidelines.
I love it. Well, next time I have a Tic Tac, I will immediately be transported to the majesty of the mountain of wisdom, Guru Kelly.
My hands.
Thank you for watching, viewers. If you were here, we had 2 streams today. This was an awesome, awesome day, and we'll be back next Thursday at our normal time. Right?
We will.